Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. Joining me in the studio is my brother from another mother, Robbie Rip Rains, hailing from South Crackalacky. And I'm afraid Doc and Ryan and Steve won't be able to join us tonight. Ryan's having some computer issues. Steve and Doc are working, so unfortunately, you just got the two of us. Robbie, how the hell are you, brother?
Well, good. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Went to my cardiologist today.
Yep. It's always fun, ain't it?
Yeah. I came home with a heart monitor.
At least I said you had one.
Yeah. much to the consternation of some people and the chagrin of others.
3D, I could impersonate Doc, but I don't think I could impersonate Steve. I'm just not that follically gifted.
Noah's right. He says, "Hey, now it was fairly good news, all things considered." Yeah, they are still gonna put in a defibrillator unit into my chest, but the doctor said the prognosis is really good, and she likes my chances of basically coming through this. And I have what's called a left side bundle branch blockage in my heart. It makes it stagger when it pumps. And she said if she can correct that, since I don't have any of the heart disease that goes along with congestive heart failure, that my heart might heal itself over time, which would be freaking awesome.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure it will.
Keep my fingers crossed. Well, how you been, dude? You're just about done with the school year, so you'll be back on patrol.
Yep. Today was the last full day. We got 2 half days, and then be off Monday. Be off Memorial Day on Monday, and then work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on the road, and then I got to take Friday off, and Kevin's getting married next weekend, so my oldest is getting married.
Makes you feel old, doesn't it? My oldest just got married just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Yep. So Friday night, I got to go to the. Oh, you want to go ahead and announce that Saturday? That on the 1st, that we're not. Yeah, that we're not going to have a show on June 1st, so everybody knows already.
Yeah, we won't have a show on June 1st. For one reason, it's my birthday, and
actually his birthday this time.
Yeah, it's actually my birthday. Although I got a bunch of early birthday wishes on Facebook. Don't know how that got started, but my birthday is June 1st, so we won't have a show that night. And you're gonna be at the wedding, right?
Yeah, my son's wedding's that day, so we're gonna take it.
I'm gonna be spending time with family, and Robbie is too. Only for his is for a wedding.
Yep. So
I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers as we've been going through this health scare. We got some pretty good news today, pretty good prognosis from the doctor, and I'm pretty optimistic. But I got to tell you, I've really been stressing it over the last few weeks. Steve Payton says, "Hey, I'm here just cooking supper. What you cooking, Steve?" Thank you, Spencer. Happy early birthday,
Spencer.
What's up, man? You eating that barbecue with the white sauce tonight, are you?
Yep. Yeah, he's probably got some white sauce sitting beside his.
And watching Dogman videos.
Yep, watching his Dogman videos.
Thank you, Wyatt. Appreciate it, brother. I actually have to have the surgery to put the implant in on July 2nd, and I am going to be laid up for a while. I don't know how that's going to affect the show because I think the 2nd is a Tuesday. So if I have the surgery on the 2nd, I'll probably still be in the hospital on the 3rd. So there probably won't be a show that night. And for the first couple of days, I'm not going to be able to use my left arm at all for the incision to start healing. And then after the first couple of days, I'll only have limited range of it. So it may affect the show for a bit, but we'll try to keep that to a minimum. But I would say I would probably miss the July 3rd Wednesday show, simply because it's going to be impossible for me to do much with just one arm.
And the week that Doc and I are there may not be but one show. We got to try to figure out how we can at least maybe the Saturday night show or maybe the Wednesday night show, one of the others. We've got some things we got to try to get figured out with that. So hopefully we can yeah, you got it, Sonya. It showed up.
Steve says he's making bacon, eggs, and French toast. Man, that sounds pretty damn good. Sometimes breakfast for supper is the best.
Oh, I love breakfast for supper. Squirrels in the house.
Hey, squirrel. Oh, whew. It is pretty warm in this.
Is House in the house, or did I miss House?
I haven't seen him. I've been trying to keep an eye out for him.
Spencer, where's House at? Y'all down a man. Man down.
Man down, man down. Bill Patty says, don't push yourself, DA. We'll be here waiting. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you guys understanding. It is going to affect our analytics, too. I mean, it's going to bump us down in the ratings for a little bit because we're not putting out as many shows. So we're going to take a hit with the YouTube algorithm, but we'll survive it.
And come back stronger.
Hell yeah. K Bauer says, DA, y'all going to go where they caught the Dogman? Yes, we are going to go down to Joe Bald. We're also going to be going into Combs Ferry, which we'll be getting into by boat, courtesy of my buddy Wyatt, and maybe some other places. There's some other closed campgrounds. We're going to go down to Moon Valley. There's a lot of places. We're actually going to go down because we'll have the 4-wheel drive. We're going to go down to Smittle Cave where that big cage is across the cave. There's a lot of places we're going to hit, so it's going to be a good time.
Yep. We're going to have a good time.
Roxanne says, when will all this be happening? Last week in June, 23rd or 24th through the 30th.
Well, me and Doc will both be getting there on the 23rd, but we'll actually officially start doing stuff on the 24th. Because Doc won't be there till probably about 9-ish. I don't know what time I'm going to roll in on that Sunday, but
Doc early enough we can throw some wood on the fire pit and hang out.
Yep.
3D Havoc says just post updates to the community and we can all like and support. Well, I would definitely appreciate that. No RI1 will keep the updates going. Brandy Copeland says, did I hear correctly there was a Dogman captured? I hadn't heard anything about that. Thad Brown says, how you feeling, DA? I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, all things considered, I'm in pretty good shape right now. I have not heard anything about a Dogman being captured. Have you?
Yeah. I hadn't heard anything. Elaborate.
If you've got links on that, Karen, if you've got links on that, send them to me in Messenger. I would love to chase that down. I can probably make posts to YouTube from my phone, even if I can't get on my computer, Noah. It isn't hard. You do it from the studio app.
Hey, Arlen, saying that's about, I guess, 3-ish hours from me, somewhere like that. Go through Camden a couple times.
K Bauer says, our DA heard a few years ago about a juvenile Dogman in San Antonio. There's nothing left about it now. I'm not remembering that one, but I remember the photos that made the rounds on Facebook and everywhere else about the possible Dogman caught on a security camera outside the gate, outside the fence of the zoo in Amarillo, and that turned out to be a publicity stunt.
Yeah, that was a hoax.
Yeah, they admitted they did it just for the publicity.
But Brandy, where did you see that? Is it like a article you saw or what? I'm curious.
Yeah, I definitely would like to know something about that. So, the fuel for the fire tonight, we're going to be discussing Bigfoot and other cryptids, and how they may involve missing persons in our national parks and national forests. Um, as um, as the missing 411 has so eloquently pointed out, there's a lot of people go missing. Now, say what you will about Pilates one way or the other. I'm not going to get into that debate. Say what you will about the guy. Some people like him, some people hate him. Uh, and whether or not he's cherry picked the cases or not is irrelevant. The simple fact is he has reported a bunch of very bizarre cases that have gone missing in national parks.
And
So
even
even if
that,
he cherry picked,
yeah,
which he even kind of admitted that himself, that he only chose ones that met certain criteria.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Even if he does cherry pick them, there's a whole lot of them that meet that criteria that he's specifically laid out. That in itself says something right there.
Well, it's weird how little things just kind of appear, like little tidbits of information, and Robbie, Doc, and I just kind of collect and handle these little bits of information and just keep them like cards. And every once in a while, one will fall in and it'll fall right into place among some other cards in the suit. And you're like, holy crap, we're starting to see a pattern here. And one of those little cards fell just the other day. If you guys are familiar with the missing 411, you know that he mentions that a lot of the people that go missing are either handicapped, elderly, or developmentally disabled. In a large percentage of the cases, that is the case. There was something inadvertent, whether something handicapped about the person. Oddly enough, the federal government gives a free lifetime membership, lifetime access to any national park if you're disabled or handicapped. Yeah, Spencer, you're absolutely right. If one's real, you have to consider them all.
And we said that the other day, that if even one of these stories, if there's 1,000 stories and 999 of them are fake and one is true,
right?
That means the things are real,
right?
Because it's facts.
And when you look at that a lot of the 411 focused on, people with autism, people with developmental disabilities, people with physical disabilities, elderly people with dementia that would just disappear without a trace. And then you couple that with the fact that the U.S. government gives a free pass access to all national parks to people with developmental disabilities and handicaps. I'm not saying one correlates to the other. I'm not gonna go officially out and put on the tinfoil hat, but it seems pretty odd that they would be encouraging a demographic of people that disappears more than others.
Well, this is when you start looking at stuff like that, it's no different than when we were on patrol and you stop a car and you're looking for drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Just because somebody has a crap load of air fresheners doesn't mean that they're carrying drugs. Just because somebody has a bunch of takeout bags in their back, but you start adding multiple of those descriptors,
mm-hmm.
the red flags start flying, and the totality of the circumstances start adding up, and things start becoming a lot more plausible.
Yeah, you can't just look at a car and think somebody is driving impaired, whether they're high or under the influence. But you can pull in behind that car and watch their behavior for a few minutes, and you can develop what we call probable cause. If they're weaving over the line, if they can't stay in the lane, there's any number of things you can look for. One of my favorites is how somehow a third arm seems to grow from somebody's neck as they reach for the seatbelt.
Yep. But it's no different here. You know, you think, okay, well, that was nice of the government to give these people free lifetime memberships. That's nice of them to give these people something to do. But then you add that in on the stuff with all the reports that we've heard from Pilates and from other people about. I mean, you and I sat there at the conference in Gatlinburg last year and listened to that guy tell us the story about the little boy that was on the spectrum. Was it his brother? I think that he was saying his little brother that had the encounter. And
I think it was his little brother.
So I mean, you start adding all this kind of stuff up, and like you said, the puzzle pieces start falling into place.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna just flat out say the government's trying to feed people with disabilities or handicaps to these things, but it seems really odd that they, much like any other animal, like if a wolf's going after a herd of buffalo, they're going to get the sick or the weak ones first. That's always the way, it's natural selection. If that's happening with people, and some of these things are actually preying on us, which we've long believed they are, then it seems like almost like the government is intentionally trying to direct sources.
This is not a political statement by no stretch of the imagination, even though some people are going to claim it is. It's not. It is very well known, or a very well known fact, that certain, and not political individuals, but certain individuals who have a lot of money and are involved with some of the things that we're using at this very moment have really, really been harping on population control. That is a well-known fact. That's not
that has definitely been in the news a lot.
That is not me being political. That is, I mean, he has publicly said that many times, and he is very, very involved in the government. That there again, that by itself may not be a big deal, but when you start throwing all this other stuff in there, and that's one of them, just another little interesting
thing.
There you go.
We're not going to flat out say that the government is deliberately feeding people to these things, but I'd say it's not outside the realm of possibility.
No. I mean,
it's certainly plausible enough to bear thought.
How many times have I said it? If they'll train a dolphin to put a mine on a ship,
or train one to have a knife attached to its nose and stab enemy divers.
Yeah. If they'll do something like that, then there's nothing out of the realm of possibility for them.
Oh, I 100% agree. A lot of people have said, they thought that Dogman was a product made by the government. I think because of the history of the cynocephali, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. However, I have said many times, I would not put it past our government to try to weaponize something that was already there. And the really weird thing about this is, and this is where we start really throwing our hats down the rabbit hole. You got to unpack the tinfoil hats. Is that a lot of these national parks? Some people that have worked there, quite a few people have come forward and said, "Hey, that we see a lot of military activity here. In fact, there are entire parking lots that have been full of military vehicles on numerous occasions." Couple that with the fact that you can't fly a drone over a national park. You are not allowed. In order to fly a drone over a national park, you've got to jump through so many hoops, and you've got to get permission. And even if they do give you permission, they'll give you a specific area, and you cannot deviate from that area. I'm not a millimeter.
They will put a geofence around your drone and pretty much lock it into whatever area. So if your drone goes outside of that area, outside that geofence, it'll and crash.
Art Johnson says Team Odin on the scene. Very well could be.
Yeah.
Is that military hunting these things, or could it possibly be that there are what they call DUMBs, or deep underground military bases, under a lot of our national parks?
Well, just go back to that transformer we found out in Joe Bald.
2 of them, actually.
Yeah. For what?
Those things are capable of channeling a tremendous amount of power, and wasn't a campsite in that park that had power.
I showed that picture to a friend of mine that works at school with me. Her husband works for a major power company. I showed that to him, and he remember I told you I thought that was 3-phase. He confirmed it. He said, "Yeah, that's 3-phase." He said that's for powering something big.
What the hell is that for? Because none of those campsites anywhere near it had electrical hookups ever. Those were primitive campsites.
Yeah,
there wasn't even like pole lights through the park. It was just at night. It was dark. Nobody wants street lights when they're camping.
yeah, 3D. They were. It was 3-phase, and you don't have 3-phase in a park like that. Even if there had been power in that park,
It wouldn't need that much power.
Ranger station.
That's like enough power to power probably a good sized factory.
And with 2 of them in there, that would. There's a lot that can be powered with that.
Spencer, we're not trying to get banned, but it might just happen.
Spencer, it would not be the first time that we've gone down that rabbit hole, and strange things have happened.
Noah says, and it's not like you could pull an RV into pretty much any of those spaces. Most of those spaces are small. Those spaces were meant for primitive camping. Now, there's only a few spaces I know of in there that would even be big enough for a modern RV.
Yeah. I mean, but even if you could get an RV in there, most of those RVs now, people got generators with them. They don't use the electrical hookups either, because those places charge so much for electrical hookups. Most people just bring those generators with them anyway.
Yeah, it costs you way more to camp when it's got all the amenities as opposed to just primitive camping.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're charging now. It's been a while since I've camped in an actual Army Corps of Engineers campground. But back, years ago when we used to go fairly regularly, it was like $7 a night to pitch a tent and like $35 a night to hook up an RV.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's still cheaper than going to a hotel anyway, but still, like you said, $7 to pitch a tent versus
RVs wouldn't need that much power anyway. Exactly.
That's the whole point. Even if that had been like, let's say they had the guard shack or any of that, you don't need a 3-phase transformer to power a guard.
Havoc says, unless they want to start a campfire with a welder. You got a good point. Yeah, that's a tremendous amount of power to be pulling for primitive campsites with no lighting.
Or unless you're bringing a CNC machine out there to machine your own parts to build your own camper while you're out there camping.
Between those two, and we don't know if there's more out there. Those are the 2 we found. Yeah. Between those 2, that would be enough to run a good sized facility.
Well, if the one that we saw for sure hadn't been upended and the wires,
which makes me to believe if Jessica Jones was correct and there's something underground beneath Joe Bald, if she's correct about that, then it's abandoned because they would have fixed that power box.
You see, Spencer, before we get booted, we got to come to a lake now.
Sounds good, man. Oh, we're down.
Spencer, you're going to get us booted talking about us getting us booted.
Roxanne Delgado says, DA, you mentioning military at parks. There's a park on 96 Highway before Halltown. 12 years ago, there were a bunch of military vehicles there. The area apart from the parking area is thick with woods. That's near Halltown. Yeah, that's near Halltown. That's not too terribly far from Carthage. And there's another one of those, much like the Springfield Underground. There's another one at Carthage. That's a cave system that they use for cold storage. It's big enough to drive semis into, multiple semis.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple shows ago.
Carthage has been shut down, allegedly. At one time, I actually heard the one at Carthage was up for sale. But the Springfield Underground was massive when I worked there. And they have been adding to it constantly since I left. I mean, they have been built. They are constantly dredging out more tunnels. And it was massive when I was there, and that was 25 years ago. Dr. 45120 Sharp says, is there any building permit history for Joe Bald? The permits could tell the story of power layout. When you start digging into Joe Bald, you find a whole lot of nothing. I mean, you literally find a whole lot of nothing.
And, just go back to the dot that you said a week before I came down, you would know I went down there and they were building that dot. Then we go down there and it's completely gone.
Completely gone. 100% gone.
So let's just, for craps and giggles, let's just say that the power was down there so these people could build the dot. Well, number one, there wasn't anything out there that, or anything that suggested that any kind of equipment out there that would require that kind of power to run that, number one. And number two, most of the time when they do that, they bring those big construction trucks in, those big work trucks that have the welders.
Have a generator and an arc welder on it.
Yeah. So
Spencer says 3-phase is only industrial, no reason for RVs to have and such.
Yeah. Like I said, my dad.
So there's something more to Joe Bald than when we stumbled across that too. It was never on any of the brochure. I camped there when I was a kid. I remember going there with my family. And there was it was a primitive campsite. There are other Army Corps of Engineers campsites not far from there. Ants Creek is one. There's another one over by Indian Point, and they're all like that. There are very few spaces where you can pull in and hook up to water and power for your RV. Most of them are set up for primitive camping. They've got one metal pole with a hook on it for you to hang your lantern on. They've got a concrete picnic table and sometimes a fire ring and sometimes one of those already concreted into the ground barbecue grills. And that's generally about it. A small spot for you to back your car into and a place to pitch your tent. And that's about all there is to them.
Well, like you said, we kind of fell into that one. If you hadn't noticed that one, we would have never got out and walked out to it and actually looked at it.
Well, I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. I mean, we were kind of exploring parts of Joe Bald that I didn't remember going back into. And as we were driving, I probably stopped and looked over there, and I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. I'm like, what the hell is that green box? And then it clicked in my head, that's some sort of power box, and that's when I pointed it out to you and Noah. What the hell is that doing here?
And and trying to be open-minded about it. When me and Noah were walking up there to it, he said, well, maybe it's just something that it's one of those that somebody's just trying to convert it into a grill or something like that. And then we get up there and sure enough, it's got high danger, high voltage
big, like,
all over it.
Cables like this big around disappear into the ground. Spencer said, it says the anomalies around Fed land is curious by itself. No record keeping, no flyover, no public disclosures. If you try to fly a drone anywhere near a lot of these military bases, they will treat that son of a gun like skeet. They will put it out of the air. Your drone will just go and come down as plastic confetti.
Yep. That is a no-fly zone.
And guys, if you haven't read my Ragnarok books, in the later part of the Ragnarok series, I talk about an underground facility under Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Okay. I was there in the 80s. I was stationed there. As far as I knew, there wasn't an underground facility. I know somebody that's a civilian contractor that works up there, and I heard via the grapevine they sent me a message and told me that in this spring they are breaking ground to a massive underground facility under a section of Fort Leonard Wood, and he doesn't know what it's for. So I might have predicted something. Matt Brennan says, you're going to disappear real fast. You're onto something. For the record, I don't plan on disappearing anytime soon.
Oh.
Andy Cunningham says, power boxes could be a source for secret hidden openings. If they indicated openings, we couldn't find anything. They just seem to be just in the trees. Just, leaves and tree and fallen branches all around them. But there doesn't seem to be anything that even remotely resembles an opening, unless it is so well concealed in the ground, it just looks like the ground. Maybe we should go out there with a metal detector.
You got one?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
That might be a good piece of equipment to bring.
You know what? You might have a point. When I was there, I was just a basic trainee, and obviously, basic trainees aren't told shit other than where to march and how many push-ups to do.
Go stand over here and shut up.
Yeah, let's hurry and run over to the chow hall so you can stand outside for 45 minutes till they're ready for you. Hurry up and wait. I learned a lot of that, but I didn't even hear rumors of an underground facility at Fort Leonard Wood, but then to hear this confirmation years later that they're supposedly constructing one, and no one may be onto something. That may be them. They may be them just flat out saying, you know what, it's already there. We're just going to kind of publicly admit that we're adding to it or something. It's 8:30, by the way. Hey, this is a good time to hear a little bit from Doc over at Scallywag.
Doc over at Dark Angel.
I'm sorry, Doc over at Dark Angel. That's right. And here's something from little Doc himself.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
How did that kick off all of a sudden? That's crazy. It just stopped in the middle of the video. And make sure you go over to Dark Angel Medical, and if you purchased any kit, check out the online classes that can show you how to use that kit and how to save a life. They are HSA and FSA certified. And use discount code Cryptid20. That's Cryptid20 for 20% off your entire order. Let them know we sent you.
And they will get you stuff to you. I just got my new dark kit.
That is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Got the OD green one.
Yep. And don't forget, he didn't say it on there, but don't forget, put Team Odin.
Yep.
To get your Team Odin rocker.
I've got a dark kit, one in black and one in I believe it's multicam.
Well, I started to get the multicam, but my plate carrier is already camo. So I said, I just want to get that so it'll stand out a little bit.
Yeah,
but
probably not a bad idea.
Guys, seriously though, if you want a good medical, I mean, I upgraded to the rip shears instead of just the regular trauma shears. It's got the seatbelt cutter on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, these kits are expensive, but they're expensive for a reason, and it's for a good reason. If you want a good medical kit, let Doc take care of you.
I wouldn't want to trust my life to a $10 kit you got from Walmart.
And this kit has got so much more and is so much bigger than my EDC kit, because I got the first responder LE version. I'm not scared about dealing with anything now with everything that comes in this kit. Great kit. Go get you one.
Exactly, Spencer. If you're off the beaten path and well away from where 911, or you might not even have cell service, well away from where 911 can even get to you, minor injuries can become lethal in a hurry. There was a lady just a few years ago was hiking in one of the national parks, and I can't remember which one. I want to say maybe it was Yosemite. She rolled her ankle, and she told her they weren't very far. They were only about an hour down the trail. And she goes, well, I'll just sit here on this rock, and told her husband, you go back to the car where you've got signal and get somebody in here to help me out because I can't walk on this ankle. And he was gone a couple of hours. By the time he got out, got a signal, and then got back to her, she had already been killed and eaten by coyotes. And that was just a rolled ankle. But Spencer's absolutely right. If you don't know how to use a tourniquet, learning how to use one when you've got blood spraying out of an artery is a bad time to try to learn. That's a bad learning curve right there.
Yep.
Dad Brown says, I've got a first aid kit. Most people think I'm crazy for carrying until something happens. Yeah, everybody thinks you're crazy if you're carrying a med kit until something bad happens. I mean,
Marcus got it, hit the nail on the head. Your life is worth the time Doc puts into these kits. Trust me.
Right. Dang right.
And I hate to give this guy credit because this is the only thing he ever said that ever made any sense to me. My old captain at one of my old police departments. But they didn't provide us flashlights. And I'm like, so I need to go buy my own. He goes, yeah. He said, you can go down here to the dollar store and buy you a flashlight. He said, or you can go, get you a stream light or something like that. And I'm like, that's kind of expensive. He goes, well, how much is your life worth? Is it worth $30? Is it worth $200? Same thing with med kit. Is your life worth a $30 med kit you can get off eBay or Amazon, or is it worth one of Doc's kits? Or the life of somebody you love? What's it worth to you?
Exactly. There was a comment about. Okay, Random on Pettit says, pulled over to ask, what is the distance between Smiddle Cave, underground storage, and Joe Bald? Relatively speaking, Mammoth cave system isn't that far away. Smiddle Cave from Springfield is about 30 miles northeast, maybe 35, from Smiddle to the underground. And from the underground to Joe Bald, probably closer to 40 miles, but that is more southeast.
Hey,
So,
Jessica.
and in Smiddle Cave from Joe Bald, probably closer to 50 miles. Hey Josh, thanks for the super cat, man. He says, were there any power companies identification numbers on the boxes? No, it said high voltage on the side, but there were no numbers or anything like that on the side. I've got some pictures that I took somewhere. I can't find them right now. I took them on my camera and then I moved them to the cloud, and I can't remember which file I put them in. So I need to go back down there and take a closer look and see if I can find more. Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's those things. I know when I worked in factories, they would have a specific number on it, would have a junction number. So if there was a problem, maintenance would know where to trace it back to. All of them were numbered. These weren't. There was another question a minute ago that I missed. If I can find it. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I might be mistaken.
No, we'll put it up the exact distances.
Oh, did he?
Yep. It says, oh, you got it. Good.
Okay, so it was farther than I thought it was.
That's still not that far.
Both right around 50 miles. And no, that's also by road, not as the crow flies. If they were digging a tunnel, they wouldn't follow the roads. Scott B says, DA, I went underground to go to the top of the arch. Yeah, there's a whole museum and facility under the arch. I don't know if it goes deeper than that. I couldn't tell you, but I've been up in the arch too, and I know you've got to go downstairs to the underground museum facility before you can go up in the arch. So it wouldn't surprise me to find out it goes deeper than we know. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
That's probably one of them situations, just like the cave systems, Oh, we've explored 2% of or 4% of the caves. Yeah, but that was before you told us that the caves possibly went from Maine to New Mexico. That 4% gets a whole lot smaller when it grows by thousands of miles.
Yeah. Roxanne Delgado says DA is a shut-in park where it's full electrical with other amenities.
No, it's Is she talking about Joe Bald?
Yeah, Joe Bald is.
Yeah,
You can still drive into it, but it's closed. You can't camp there. Although we did see a guy stealth camping there.
Yeah, but
I
as
would like
far
to
as
have talked to him, but
there were no
he was
amenities.
in
I
the
mean,
water.
like the
No
bathroom was
bathroom, no
nature.
nothing. Yeah. If you don't pack it in, you ain't got it. Pretty basically. 3D Havoc says hopefully the 3-phase wasn't active. That'd be a good way to off yourself messing with that stuff. It didn't seem to be. The one was we found was actually busted over. We think somebody probably tried to get some of the copper out of it. Had it been active, it probably would have barbecued them on the spot. But that one had been cut off and knocked over. So it leads me to believe that they're not active, and whatever is under Joe Bold or whatever they was servicing, whatever those power boxes were servicing, has long since been shut down.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This could have been years ago one of the dumbs, but there's nothing that says that it's still active. But it's just really, really strange to see stuff like that when, I mean, no overhead power lines, no buildings at all.
There were no power lines that ran through Joe Bald.
And
there were no
street
lights. The only building that had power was the little ranger shack at the entrance of the park, and that's not even there anymore.
And
it had its own little power box, which was still there.
Yeah, but what we're talking about was in the middle, pretty much, of the campground. There was nothing around.
Lyndon, no, the new book is not out yet. I'm having some issues trying to get the cover done. Just looking to see if I missed anything. Open Coloring Books says nearly all cities have underground tunnels. People just tonight. Springfield does, and I could take you to the entrance to a couple of them. Bad thing is it's rained so much lately that a lot of them are going to be flooded. But if you go into some of those tunnels in the height of summer when it hasn't been raining much, you can go almost anywhere in Springfield when you enter those tunnels.
And to what Justin will say, Justin Olfart was talking about, they use step-up transformers on long runs. Yeah, but they usually run those along the power lines and along roads. They don't just put them out in the middle of a abandoned campground.
Scott B says Missouri Caves are part of Mammoth Caves. I don't know if they are or not. It would not surprise me because they're now thinking that Mammoth Cave runs from Maine to Carlsbad Caverns in southern New Mexico and possibly even further. So if they run essentially the length of the Appalachians and across the Midwest all the way down to southern New Mexico, that means they cross Texas. And Texas is one of those states you can drive 12 hours and still be in Texas.
Karen's wanting to know if Table Rock freezes over in the wintertime.
I've seen Table Rock ice up at the edges, but I don't think I've ever seen Table Rock ice up all the way. It doesn't really get that cold around here.
We got House in the house finally.
What's up, House? Mike F says, I'm near Mammoth Cave. I'm not sure if anyone knows how far that goes. The most recent studies coming out of that, produced by the USGS, suggest that it may lead from Maine to southern New Mexico and even beyond that. So if it spans that length of a distance, it's highly unlikely it's just in a straight line. It probably spreads out in multiple directions. So it would not surprise me to learn that the caves under Missouri, and there are a lot of them, would not surprise me to find out those caves actually somehow connect to Mammoth Cave.
What? And I don't know if there's any kind of connection with the fact that
thanks, Noah.
That you got the cave systems where we've been talking about. We think these things possibly live underground, but then you got these possible deep underground military bases where some of these things are kept and trained and stored and all this kind of stuff. Is that a connection? Because why would, I mean, obviously this is is a no-brainer. They keep them underground like that so people can't see them. But does that stand to reason that they keep them underground because that's where they're comfortable and that's where they're easier to keep them more under control because they feel more at ease?
Vic, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, man. Oh, and speaking of those, yeah, you guys are all familiar with Robert Miller, aka Sentinel, who's usually in the house at some point. Probably won't see him tonight, but if next time you see him, make sure you all wish him a happy birthday. Tonight's Sentinel's birthday. So happy birthday, brother. Hope you're having a good time.
Happy birthday, Six. I had to call him Six tonight since it's his birthday. Since I normally call him Sentinel. Had to make it special.
There you go. Mates and fences. If there's only estimates on Mammoth and Diamond Cave systems, no one truly knows exactly. Then when they were saying before they said it went from when they just believed it was under the Appalachians, they said that they'd only explored less than 5% of it. But if it's that much bigger than they originally estimated, they've probably just barely scratched the surface. Probably explored less than 0.01% of those caves, and the USGS has gone pretty deep in some of them. Sharon's got a good point. In cities, what about old closed down underground train lines? Leon Howarth, who was on the show, who's a Dogman researcher in England, said that one thing they discovered there was a lot of the right-of-way clearings that are cleared for trains. A lot of train conductors have seen Dogman using those right-of-ways basically as a highway because it's not heavily wooded. They can make it quick in and out. And he also mentioned that he'd heard stories of people supposedly seeing, like the people that do urban exploring, supposedly people had seen Dogmen in some of the sealed off sections of the London Underground. And that would not surprise me at all. 3D Havoc says, are there any cave maps that overlay the areas you found that 3-phase box? I have not found any cave maps of that area, but I know Missouri's riddled with caves. And one of the largest caves in the state of Missouri is Marvel Cave at Silver Dollar City, and that's just a few miles from Joe Bald. As the crow flies, it's probably only 3 or 4 miles. So it's highly likely that part of Marvel Cave, because they haven't explored all of it. They take tours through a portion of it, but there are other sections with they just don't go. And they certainly won't let tours go into them. They don't know how far back some of those passageways goes, because at some points they get too small for people to get through.
And you can't explore them during the nighttime because of the air quality.
Yeah, we were told when I worked security there that no matter what we heard coming from Marvel Cave, we were not allowed to go into it to investigate because of the poor air quality. But the air quality was just fine to take dozens of tours through every day. But at night it suddenly got bad and we weren't supposed to go in there. Vic Kumar says subterranean cave systems are part of the lore from Asia to all the way to the West Pacific Islands, basically from India through Papua New Guinea to Australia and to New Caledonia. Right? I'm not surprised. I mean, there's even theory that some of these cave systems are deeper than the ocean.
Well, and I know there's some people that call us crazy about, and I hate to keep calling it the hollow earth, because when we say that, we're not talking about like what you see in the new Godzilla and King Kong movies, where there's just a crust and then it just opens up into this whole new ecosystem. But think of it as a honeycomb with just multiple tunnels and caves and huge caverns and things like that. I think that is just a way that creatures like that could just, number one, stay hidden for so long, because that's what's your main question that people, well, why haven't they been found? They haven't been found in so long, and da-da-da. Well, if this is true and that's what they're doing, that's one very plausible reason as to why they're not more of
a good deal of time traveling underground.
Yeah,
especially if they can just resurface, a state away.
Yeah, and Misty just said
Noah says Joe Bald's about 5 miles as the crow flies from the entrance to Silver Dollar City.
But Misty just made a perfect example of that. They would only have to come out to forage and get herbs and stuff like that, really, if they lived in these subterranean areas.
Yeah. Exactly.
And honestly, we've talked about the range of their territory, that would just about make that null and void right there, because they wouldn't have to worry about competing with bears and wolves and cougars and things like that if they were.
What if the military chose these nexus points for the locations of deep underground military bases to give them access to these massive underground caverns?
That's a very good theory, because, like I said, we found out at when we were down in the LBL that's pretty much a nexus point.
Mr. Spartan, Mr. Spartan 40 says, I have 3 encounters I'd love to share with you. I would love to hear them. Send me an email at daroberts@daroberts.net. I would love to hear your encounter stories. Noah's got a good poll up right now. Whether you think cryptids are whether or not you think cryptids are subterranean. I think that's a really good poll to put up. Marcus and Tony says these creatures are clearly nomadic. I don't think they're necessarily nomadic per se. I think much like any other big predator, mountain lions, bears, they have a home range. A single mountain lion, an adult male mountain lion, may range as far as 300 miles following prey. So a predator, especially a predator that moves in a clan, probably going to have a much bigger range. That's why, like in certain areas, like if you get down near Eminence, Missouri, if you look at a lot of the reports that come out of Eminence, you get a flurry of reports in spring and a flurry of reports in the fall, and not much in between.
But I think to that point, I think that their range is big enough to where it would probably appear that they were nomadic just because of how big their range would be.
Well, they would have to be, because a group of those would eat everything there is to eat out of a small area if they stayed in one spot.
But that would also explain why, like you just said, you'll hear reports this time of the year, and then you won't hear nothing else. I mean, just think about the legend of Boggy Creek. Think about the timelines. Sometimes it would go years in between one sighting to another. Like if something that big had, a couple 1,000-mile range, it could be making a circuit, and it could be a year before it would get back into that area. So
Misty's got a good comment. It says most of the places they seem to thrive is national parks and animal refuges in the parks. Look how they randomly close off parks because of bears. And other park maintenance or mating season for the endangered brown chipmunk or something like that. They've got all kinds of little answers, little excuses they use, and there's always a section of a lot of these national parks that are closed. I don't think you'll ever find 100% access to a national park all the time, and it's starting to happen with the national forests as well. It's not just the Army Corps of Engineers. The U.S. Forestry Service in the Mark Twain National Forest administers Big Bay Campground, and they closed it inexplicably, just out of the blue. Noah and I drove down there, and they had the thing gated off. You couldn't even drive in there. We drove in the little public access area where you could fish, but the actual campground, which is supposedly a fairly modern campground, is now gated off with a big steel gate, and you can't get a vehicle back in there. Well, and it was a campground in an area near Shell Knob, Missouri, that was making money. I mean, they had people there all the time. Inexplicably, they said it was because it was getting old and it hasn't been updated. But how much update do you need to a primitive campsite?
Well, that we asked that same question when we were down there in Joe Ball, because you were like, all you would need to do for this thing to be open back up is have a grounds crew come in here and do a few cleanups and everything, because most of those tables were okay, except for the few
that were
broken. Yeah. Big thick concrete slabs or cement slabs that are just broken, snapped off.
Without hammer marks on them.
Yeah, and the big metal poles that were bent over.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
Yeah, you could, if you really wanted to reopen Joe Bald and had the permission of the Army Corps of Engineers, you could go in there, clean up some of those campsites and do some repairs on those and probably open it in a couple of weeks. It is
Yeah.
really not in that bad a shape.
No, it would take, if you had a good crew that had a good size, or a good size crew, they could probably get that thing cleaned up in 4 or 5 days.
Roxanne says, DA, can you walk back into Big Bay? I don't know, but I think we're going to try in June. We're fixing to find out. Scott B says they put wild hogs into LBL to feed cryptids and then elk to help feed the Dogman. I think that's why they introduced wood bison there too, and I also think that's why they reintroduced elk in southeastern Missouri down near Eminence. And coincidentally enough, the height of time when we have Bigfoot activity down around Eminence is in the mating and birthing seasons for the elk.
Well, me and Johnny drove through the wood bison and elk prairie, and we were both just like, what is the point?
And you're not allowed to hunt those things.
No, you can hunt in that park. You just can't hunt those specific things.
Bison. Can you imagine how much meat one of those wood bison would put in your deep freeze?
Yeah, you've been
1,500 pounds of meat. And that's stressed out.
You've been in my truck. My truck's not the tallest truck, but it ain't small by no means. Me and Johnny drove by one of them things, and its shoulders were above my passenger door. When we passed it, I looked at Johnny. I said, "Don't you piss that thing off, because if you do, it's gonna flip my truck." And it turned and hit. Johnny was almost looking eye to eye with that thing when he was sitting in the passenger side of my truck. That's how tall that thing was at the shoulders.
Mogi and Monster says a lot of state campgrounds closed down for COVID and haven't been open since. A lot of the ones we're finding here in Missouri were closed years ago, and they've never given an explanation why. In fact, there's one on Table Rock Lake called Combs Ferry. It used to be an active marina with docking slips for dozens of boats. You don't, and it was a popular campground. It's near Blue Eye, Missouri. It was making money. It was a park that was making money. Army Corps of Engineers shut it down without explaining why. And then they went so far as to bulldoze off all the landward entrances. You could not get in there without a large capable four-wheel drive. And even then, there's a public fishing area at the beginning of where the old Combs Ferry campground used to be. There's still a public fishing area, but they shut it down at dark. And if you don't get out of there before dark, they will lock your ass in there and not come back till morning. And it's with massive steel gates. So we're planning on going in by boat.
I don't understand why more people just don't, unless it's like the Matrix thing and the ignorance is bliss. Like,
well, some people would rather have their head buried in the sand than to see the truth.
The whole, I know this steak isn't real, but I'm going to enjoy it anyway. That thing. So, I mean,
yeah. Linda Bergman says, DA, I heard that many of those closed campgrounds are cutting down timber and selling it. That's not the case in Joe Bald. It is overgrown. And it has been for 20 odd years, 25 years. I think it was 1999 when they shut it down.
We're about 30 seconds away from.
Well, let's go ahead and take a brief moment to talk about Scallywag Tactical. Robbie, you want to tell us a little bit about Scallywag? Noah, you want to throw the code up?
Had to get my other baby back out since I've had it in the other room. Scallywag Tactical is another one of our fine affiliates that is owned by another veteran, great guy, Craig Burghardt. Him and his crew make some of the best blades you'll ever find. Like I make a joke about this. If you ever threw this at somebody and you didn't hit them with one of these two dangerous ends, you're still gonna kill them if you hit them anywhere you're going to break an arm or a leg, because this thing is heavy and it will do some damage. But they, yeah, just look at these blades DA showing. They're all, unlike our other affiliate sponsor who literally makes works of art. These things are in themselves are works of art too. I mean, you cannot get a hold of a better blade than one of these Scallywag Tacticals.
It's called the Transformer. It looks like a lock blade, but if you click the lock blade, it actually just turns into a push dagger.
So they've got anything from just a regular old folder, and this, as much as I love my big Bounty and my Gunner's Mate and my Bordenac, this right here is probably my favorite knife because I do everything with this knife. This goes in the shop with me. This goes to the laser with me. Anywhere I need to go with a knife around the house, opens boxes, cuts cardboard, strips wires. This is one of the best knives I've ever had in my entire life. I love this knife. I love all my Scallywag Tactical. I carry my Orca every day on my duty gear. I've also got my Karambit on.
Yeah, generally 2 on me at any given time.
And then, of course, when we go out to play, this one and my Gunner's Mate and my Dew Claw. Let me get my Dew Claw. As far as a camp knife, an all-around bushcraft knife, camp knife, you're not going to find one better than this.
The Dew Claw is an amazing little knife.
You can do just about anything. Versatile. You can do anything that you need to do at a camp. And I'm talking about anything from hammering in your tent stakes to chopping your food up, get ready to cook, whittling your kindling off wood, or even cutting down the wood. This thing will do it all.
That knife would be a good one to have like on your go bag, because if you needed an overall utility do-it-all knife for an emergency situation, that is probably one of the tops.
This one does go when my go bag and I go. This goes with me. But you can't get a better set of knives from anybody. And even you just want a good set of kitchen knives. They make those too. DA loves his, and I've seen them, and they're pretty.
They are very nice. They're the best kitchen knives I've ever owned.
So
let me show you one that just dropped. I think it was earlier today. Let me bring this one up. Let me move it over so you guys. I think it debuts on Saturday. And you remember I said that Scallywag was partnering with Gray's Tactical, Gray's Customs. This is the first of those coming out with Gray's.
Shadow Gypsy, I've had this knife for a year and a half, and I have never had to sharpen it. And you just heard everything that I said.
It's called the Nymph. There's her bona fides right there. CMP S30V, 60 HRC hardness, deep cryo treated, triple tempered, G10 scale, stainless pins, Covenant Tiger stripe Kydex sheath, spring steel inside waistband, outside waistband clip, Type E Cerakote finish, choice of black reground, jungle reground, FDE, which is flat dark earth, or flat dark earth reground. And it's a signature series, custom made and designed by Jay Roberts, who's the custom knife maker from Gray's Customs. I would love to have one of these, but right now it is not going to happen. I've got yeah, they are very pretty. And it looks kind of similar to the from the blade length. It looks kind of similar to the Dew Claw to me, only the blade is of different size. I think this would be another one of those overall just outstanding utility blades.
But Shadow Gypsy, you talk about how they hold up over heavy use. Have not put this
Robbie, we lost your audio. Happened early tonight. Hi, Robbie will be right back. K Bauer says, DA, that looks almost like a Kaiser harpoon. Yeah, you're right. It does. It's got a very harpoon shape to it. They're beautiful blades. I would definitely like to get one. But and remember, if you guys decide you want to get one through the remainder of this month, which is just a few more days, about a week, you've got, if you use DA Roberts 10, it's actually 20% off. So you get a pretty good chunk of savings on one of those new blades working with Gray's Custom. And I guarantee you, we are going to see some beautiful blades over the rest of this year. It comes out with Gray Customs, because those knives are handmade by, they've got a custom knife maker, and yeah, I'm expecting some beautiful blades to come out with this partnership with Gray's Customs. Going to have some amazing knives.
Misty, you don't worry about that.
Hopefully, when I can afford it, they'll still have some.
Misty, you don't, just because I've cut myself on camera with one of these knives does not mean I don't need to play with them. I know what I'm doing most of the time.
Yeah, they're definitely something. If you do any kind of hunting, fishing, or backpacking or camping, Scallywag blade is worth its weight in gold.
They want me to take the paper again with the sound. Hold on, DA.
For y'all who fish, they've got two filleting knives. One's called this is the bad fish, and I believe the other one's called the salty fish.
Salty fish and the bad fish. Yep.
Yeah, this is the bad fish, and I'm telling you, this thing is stupid sharp, like
the salty
surgical sharp.
The salty fish is a little bit shorter than the bad fish, I think.
Yeah, but you want one of these. If you fish, get you one of these and throw it in your throw it in your tackle box, because you will fillet fish. I was cutting stuff with it, and it goes through it. I mean, like, just without any effort, and just makes them like paper thin. I mean, yeah, it is. When I say it's a filleting knife, it's a filleting knife.
All these knives will cut you three ways:
long, deep, and continuous.
Long, deep, and continuous.
Dang right. All right,
make sure.
Yeah, make you wish you had a Dark Angel kit, or at least a tube of super glue handy.
Okay, I've only cut myself one time on camera, and y'all act like this.
Hey, I've done it too, so no judgment from me here. K Bauer says Robbie's not allowed to have a bad fish.
Statistically speaking, is many knives that I've had over my almost 50 years of my life to not have been cut any more than I have. I think I'm doing pretty dang good, because I'm
got all your fingers still attached. Ain't got any nubs. Yeah, but if you fish, you can pick up those salty fish, the bad fish and the salty fish. You can pick them up, and they're not that expensive. Yeah. That's just the perfect little blade to toss in a tackle box, and just forget it's there till you need it. I mean, it's if you lose it, it's not going to break the bank. It's not the end of the world. But I'm telling you, you want to fillet out a fish, that is the blade to do it. It is freaking surgical. So, back to the weirdness.
Off the scallywag and back to the scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt's a good term. I love that.
I always love that term.
Yeah, it means two different things if you're Navy, or if you're in the Navy, or if you go to Waffle House.
I was speaking in Navy terms, but
I think Denny's is just Waffle House for people that can't fight.
That's a good point. Although I've seen some pretty knockdown dragouts in Denny's too.
Really? I've worst fights I've seen have always been at a Waffle House.
What
Mr. Spartan said he sent me an email.
Misty, I've heard of insane ways to remove a tattoo, but cutting it off of
I knew a guy when I worked
That's
at the sheriff's
hardcore.
department that cut around his tattoo on it. When they told him he couldn't go to patrol because he had a tattoo on his arm, he cut around it and then grabbed the end of it and just freaking rolled it off. Like, you are insane.
That's hardcore.
That is pretty hardcore. 3D Havocs is almost spitting my beer out. Spartan, I'll have to check that out. I'd like to read over it before I read it on the show. That way I make sure I can read it well. I want to do it justice. I don't want to just bumble through it. So give me a chance to read over it and share it with Robbie before we do it live. Maybe we'll see about doing that Saturday or the following Wednesday, one of the two. Kay Bauer says the Waffle House fights never involved alcohol, right? No, there was always drunks that went to Waffle House at 3:00 in the morning. Nope. Last I heard, he was still on patrol.
Hey, what's that big tattoo-shaped scar you got there?
No, it's just a kind of a square scar. Well, rectangular.
I'm sorry. I may just be biased because I never wanted to be a tar guard. But I can't imagine wanting a job so bad as I'm going to take my knife,
Cut a tattoo off.
and cut a tattoo off just because they say, well, you can't work here because you got that.
I think there was some alcohol involved too.
There better have been.
Probably a lot. I remember laughing at him when he had a bandage on it for several weeks.
I mean, hold on. Arkansas's asking me a question right now. Arkansas, is it?
It depends on whether or not you can mail it direct.
Yeah, if you can mail it, but also how good it'll show up depends on what color it is. If it's a darker color like this, it'll show up a lot better. I've engraved some stainless color knives and they show up and you can see them, but you can't see them as good. So if it's the black anodized, it shows up a whole lot better. So yeah, if you got my email, send me an email. If not, let me know and I'll put my email in the chat or have Noah do it one or some, we'll get it in there somehow. So just let me know if you got it. If you do, send me an email and we'll talk about it.
Mike F says Indian Grave Point Cave is huge. DeKalb County, Tennessee, small compared to Mammoth. I think it's the second largest non-commercial cave in Tennessee. That was Smiddle Cave is officially listed by the state of Missouri as the 5th largest cave in the entire state, and it's completely barred off. No, this is I don't think I have it. Don't think you have what, bud? Oh, your email?
Yeah, I'm sending it in the group chat.
Okay.
It's in the group chat, Noah.
If we don't have anything going on, oh yeah, we got something going on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Nick's birthday. Tomorrow's my middle son Nick's birthday. So tomorrow night we're taking him to a Springfield Cardinals game, minor league baseball, and so I was thinking if we didn't have anything planned, maybe we'll try for Friday. Noah and I might get up fairly early and go down to Joe Bald and see if we can locate more of those power boxes. Because I want to do it during the day. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier to spot them in the daylight. Vic Kumar says new organisms are found in cave systems every year around the world, and even larger animals like the deer thought to be extinct in the 1900s in Vietnam, but found after the war. Yeah, there were. I want to say it was in Cambodia and in Vietnam. They found massive cave systems that had their own ecosystem in them.
And we're talking like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth style. And
Angela, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And I think something else that that's interesting about all this is, we talk about the military bases, and that, that lends a lot to what we've been talking about. You talk about, how big the Mammoth Cave system is. We talked about the dye that they put in the radioactive marker dye.
They put into Bennett Springs.
And then shows up 6 months later in Alaska. That, when you start really not Lori, when you start really piecing this together, it really starts making that honeycomb theory
a lot more plausible.
Yeah, how else can you explain stuff? If you got a cave system that goes from Maine to New Mexico, and then you got an underground spring that goes from Missouri to Alaska, how else do you explain that?
We have no idea with these cave systems that we've only scratched the surface to. Once you get 5-6 days down into that cave, they may open up into massive networks of caverns that we just don't understand. Well, for example, I know that there's an underground lake that referred to as the Ogallala Aquifer, and it's under like 4 states, and it's a massive underground freshwater lake that a lot of the Southwest gets their water from. The Ogallala Aquifer is under New Mexico. It's under parts of Texas. It's under parts of Arizona. It's under Utah, Nevada, Oklahoma, Colorado, a little like the very panhandle of Colorado. And I think it extends all the way up to Montana and Wyoming. The Ogallala Aquifer is massive, and it is a ginormous underground lake of fresh water.
Yeah. So, I don't see how you can dispute that theory, how you can say that that's not possible when you've got, because Missouri and Alaska ain't close.
No.
Maine and New Mexico ain't close. But if you've got some kind of cave system or an underground spring that goes from one area of those to the, I don't know, it seems like, to me, it takes more faith to think it's not than to think it is.
Right. It's, I think it shows more of a closed mind to refuse to believe in some of this stuff when the preponderance of evidence says, to the contrary.
Yeah.
The same thing with Bigfoot. There's still so many people that are adamantly refusing to believe in anything in Bigfoot. Yet we've got tons of not just anecdotal evidence, but sighting reports, castings, hair samples, scat samples, DNA samples. But every time a sample comes back unknown primate, they're like, oh, it's just a chimp. How many times do we have to say unknown primate before we can, you get through your head? It's a primate that we don't know what it is.
Yeah. Same thing with unknown canine species.
Exactly. Like they found out in Meeker, Colorado with those cattle deaths.
Yeah.
Unknown canine.
In today's day and age, there should not be anything such as an unknown canine.
Exactly. Considering the genome projects where they've got genetic samples of basically every known animal. It's in databases, and some are even held in genetic libraries in case of an apocalyptic event, so they could try to bring some of these animals back. So yeah, they have documented the animals very well. They know what a lion is. They know what a mountain lion is. They know what a tiger is. They know what wolves are. So what happens when it comes back that it's an unknown species with that is genetically related to another species, but they don't know what it is.
I think Misty mentioned it earlier, the Eden Project. That's how many movies have you seen have something like that, like the Eden Project? was it 2012? The one about the Earth flooded again. That had an element of the Eden Project in it. There was an animated movie. I can't remember, like Titan AE, I think was the name of it. That had elements of the Genesis project or the Eden Project in it. Or Eden or Genesis, either one. I've heard it called both. Mm-hmm. But that, like we've said before, if you see it in a movie, chances are it's already really out there somewhere, and maybe have been out there for years.
Right. Greg House. Greg's another old cop, and he's absolutely right. We've when it comes to Bigfoot, we've got more than enough evidence. We've sent people to prison for life on less evidence than we have for Bigfoot. Eyewitness encounters are, you can convict somebody and put them on death row on eyewitness encounters. Yeah. But when it comes to Bigfoot eyewitness, they're like, oh, it's just they just made it up. Well, then you've got to discount every eyewitness, and there are thousands of them from all walks of life.
Yeah, what'd you see? Well, I saw here. Put it down on this piece of paper, and I'm going to give it to the judge, and the judge is going to sign a warrant based on what this person said. And I'm going to get a warrant and put that person in jail based on what this person over here said. But
right. Vicky Dennison says, I saw a documentary for an Army guy said he killed his fruit, killed Bigfoot, and they sent him to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of hoax crap out there. And I think a lot of it is deliberate. I think they're deliberately trying to make us all look like a bunch of kooks. But you can't lump everybody that's at a Bigfoot encounter into that same category. Yeah, I make the joke about how, back in the 70s and 80s, if they interviewed somebody about Bigfoot, the guy had 4 teeth, no T-shirt, and a single strap fastened on his bibbed overalls with no shoes on. And he's like, yeah, I saw the Bigfoot, and he stole my chickens. It's not like that anymore. And it's what they still try to portray, people that have had Bigfoot encounters. They still try to portray people as that one inbred hillbilly from southeastern Missouri, and that ain't the case no more. I mean, we've got judges coming forward, doctors, lawyers, people that should be given some credibility because they've got a lot to lose by admitting what they've seen. These are people, professionals that could lose a career, if somebody thought that they were crazy. And it's not just among cops. I mean, there's a lot of soldiers coming forward. I heard 4 or 5 stories in the last 2 years just from Fort Leonard Wood alone. So we've got people from literally every walk of life that are seeing these things. And and like Spencer said earlier, if even one of them is telling the truth, then these things exist.
Yeah. Because, and we talked about this too, just if you want to just talk about just sightings, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of sightings in the U.S. every year. Well, let's just knock it down and say only 2% of those are valid. That are people that are not hoaxing, that really actually saw it. 2% of all those sightings. That's still
a lot of sightings.
Yeah, that's still a lot. So if you're gonna, you have to. Here's the thing. If you're going to disprove it, you have to completely and totally disprove it 100%. You can't just say, nah, it don't exist. That goes back to, like you said, taking a teaspoon and, nope, there's no sharks in this teaspoon of ocean water, so that means sharks don't exist.
Right.
Just because you don't see them in that one small sample size.
Okay, Vicky, I get you. She said, and said she meant troop instead of fruit. I'm sorry about that. I was just trying to figure out what it meant, but it very well could be true. Unfortunately, like I was saying, there are a lot of hoax crap out there. You guys see it on Facebook all the time. Blurry pictures of bushes with red circles on them. Then you've got, AI photos, and don't get me started on the AI photos. Yes, if you saw the thumbnail for the show tonight, I used an AI program to create that. But I'm making no bones. That is not a legitimate picture. I use it just to make easy thumbnails for the show.
Yeah.
but there are a lot of people that are presenting these AI photos and claiming they're real, especially the black and white ones are like last photo of a Bigfoot taken with such and such person in 1875. Like, oh yeah, how did they get Bigfoot to hold still for one of those old cameras? He just, we can't get a clear image today, but he was just like palling around for 5 minutes getting his picture made back then.
And that we did that show. Matter of fact, I think it was the last one on What's Really Out There. We did that one on AI and how much that's kind of hurting our community right now because you can't trust pictures and videos right now.
Well, the thing is going into that, I never trusted photos. Unless I knew this source, and generally that was photos I took myself or somebody I trusted. I was immediately skeptical of any photo because Photoshop is a thing, video shop is a thing. You cannot just look at a photo and go, well, that looks pretty real, it's got to be real. You've got to debunk photos, and that means if it says, if everything you have analysis done of this photo and it says it's legit, then you got to accept that it's legit. But if it says this looks like it's been tampered with, there are layers here that aren't the same, then you've got to throw that entire photo out. And the bad thing is about a lot of these, especially in Facebook groups, they'll post a photo, it'll get debunked, and 6 months later it'll pop up in another group of someone else. Well, my favorite is seeing one that's like, this photo, I took this photo outside of Chicago in 1995, and then a month later it's in another group, I took this photo just outside of San Antonio back in 2006. There's a different story every time. The story is usually bull crap, and the photo has probably been debunked a dozen times. We've got to do better. We've got to vet these photos and videos a lot better.
There was, I can't remember, like a couple of years ago when it started, there was a video clip that was going around. Some of you have probably seen this. The clip was, there was several of them, but one of my favorite ones was U.S. Marine beats capoeira fighter. And it shows this long zoom of this guy doing the Jenga, which is the capoeira dance. And the guy comes up to him and does a little Superman punch and knocks him out. And they were putting that off as a real fight. Hundreds and hundreds of people put this out. It's a freaking scene out of the movie Never Back Down, Never Surrender. That fighting movie with Jamon Hunso.
Mm-hmm.
And people were just constantly, like every time you turn around on Facebook, somebody was redoing this clip and retitling it of something else, trying to show that or say it was a real fight. And I mean, it's the same scene every time, over and over. Same thing you're talking about there. People recycling footprints or pictures of footprints or videos. This was outside this, and William actually started calling people out on it.
Linda, that's what you've got to do. I use the same training I was given when I was a law enforcement officer, when I was still active, to look for discrepancies in stories, to look for changes in body language. Robbie mentioned it. What is that called?
Neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah, neurolinguistic programming. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's taught in a lot of academies and a lot of training classes to tell you what visual cues to look up, what shifts in body language. You can basically become a human lie detector if you're really good at it. I'm okay at it. Robbie's probably better at it than I am because he's still practicing it. But if you're a student of neurolinguistic programming, you can figure out a lot of stuff just by the way people behave when they talk. Same thing with interrogation techniques. They teach you to look for their eye contact, the way they move their eyes, the way they move their body, how tense they are, whether or not they hesitate when they answer. There's lots of little audio and visual cues that you look for. So the trick is if you're interviewing somebody, it's to look for those things. And I'm not really think I'm qualified to teach somebody to do it because, like I said, I'm not the greatest at it myself. But you can Google it. You can research neurolinguistic programming. It's pretty interesting, and it's used in all walks of life. They use it in advertising today. They use it in business models. It's it's the art of basically, figuring out what makes people tick mentally and using that against them. So NLP is a very powerful tool to have.
Yep. It is. It's scary how accurate it is. And yeah, Rodney, he knows about it. My old chief. Matter of fact, Rodney, if you remember the guy that, because I think you went to not at the same time, but I think you went to the same class that I went to. Dave Tafau, that used to work for our state law enforcement division, SLED. He's the one that taught it. And I'm going to tell you something. We got into that class and he started breaking this stuff down. I was like, oh my God. But it's true, because he said, I'll prove it to you. And he took, 4 or 5 of us out of the room and then left the rest of them in the room. He went out and said, okay, when you come back in, I'm going to ask you 10 questions. He said, I want you to lie to 5 of them, and I want you to tell the truth to 5 of them. He said, and I'm going to tell you which ones you're lying to and which ones you're telling the truth to. I was some gun. He was 100% accurate on every single one of them. It was scary. Like DA said, you can be a human lie detector.
And it's one of those things that, it's sad that we have to actually resort to that, because I think there's a good chunk of people that are out there that are just looking for their 15 minutes of fame. But by the same token, I also think some people are deliberately spreading disinformation. They want to keep this field considered pseudoscience. They want us to all paint us all with the same brush and make us all look like we're crazy, because it's a lot easier for the government to maintain the illusion that these things don't exist, as long as they paint the picture of people who believe in them as crazy. But then again, we've also started to see what we call soft disclosures, how the government is slowly admitting certain things like trail markers, trailheads. We'll say something about Bigfoot. Some states have passed protective laws. Then, of course, in 1999? No, 2019, right before COVID, when they attempted to change the federal hunting laws to include certain near human chimeras. What is that? What are they talking about there?
And see, that's
what
the
is
thing
a
about
near
that.
human chimera?
They said that, but they never said what that was. They never
Right.
defined it, which is weird in
And
itself.
that could cover a lot of things if that wording got put into law, and it didn't. So there's things that the government have done that have basically are a very slight tip of the hat to say these things are out there, but then they still exude so much effort to try to keep these things from becoming mainstream. And I think that it's still happening to a certain extent. A lot more people are coming forward with stories. I think sightings have been a lot on the uptick lately as well. Vic is not wrong. No, you could be right. I think I know which one you're talking about, and it might be not quite near, not so near. Linda, yeah, and I'm telling you, don't take anything even we say as gospel.
No.
We don't know. We're just theorizing. We're just putting together theories based on encounter reports, our own personal research, and the experiences of other people. We're forming theories. Take any researchers with a grain of salt, or in some cases a bucket of salt, because there are no experts in this field. Just because I'm up here, spouting off the top of my head and talking about my ideas doesn't mean my ideas are any more valid than any of y'all's. I can't tell you what to believe, and I shouldn't be able to tell you what to believe. Yeah, make up your own mind about it, but just listen to what makes sense, because
and to add to that, it doesn't matter if y'all agree or disagree with me and DA. It's not going to hurt our feelings if we've got different opinions, because that's how you learn stuff. I mean, so don't be afraid to to have a different opinion from us, but also don't be afraid if you have a different opinion, and we say, well, that's cool, but we think, because nobody's lost anything if you disagree with somebody's opinion, because that's all that is somebody's opinion. And that's the biggest problem we've got right now in this community, is there's too many people who have that my way or the highway attitude. And it's just, that's not how things are going to work. And that's my soapbox on that one.
Someone asked if I would show that map. It's got the overlay of the missing 411. I will share that with you right now. Oops, didn't mean to turn off my camera. Hit the wrong button. This is the map of known cave systems compared side by side, or top to bottom, with the missing 411 clusters of disappearances, the largest clusters. And as you can see, the map corresponds almost perfectly. It's not exact, but where there are large cave systems that are generally clusters. You got this section here in southern Texas, then you got this section here in southern Texas. You got this super cluster up here in Oklahoma, moving up into Missouri, and then look at all these caves in Missouri. Then you've got the Mammoth Cave system that runs right here, and then look at all the, well, this is the Mammoth Cave here, but look at all these disappearances here. And you've got disappearances in Colorado and in California and up the West Coast. Look at the caves. And we also know that there are tons of lava tubes around Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. So I don't even think those are on here. Then you've got scattered caves throughout the Rocky Mountain states, scattered disappearances right along the same line. And I'm not saying that this map is exact, but it's close enough to be concerning. It is almost a perfect overlay.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's going to be, when you look at the disappearances, there's going to be disappearances, because they may have a disappearance over here, but that may have been where they actually went into the park. That may not be where they actually disappeared from. They could have still disappeared into a cave.
And in some cases, when they did find somebody, they found them miles away in places they could not have gotten on their own.
And look at the people who are really, like Julian Sands, for example. Now, I'm not
an
saying
experienced hiker who won competitions.
But he was very experienced and very, very knowledgeable of the area he was in, of what he was doing. He
went missing on a well-marked trail.
So, like I said, I'm not spitting out conspiracy theories, but that's just one of those things that makes you say,
We are at the bottom of the hour. Let's take a quick moment to talk about our third affiliate, brockblades.com. Noah, will you throw that up? Ken Brock is a great dude, longtime friend of the channel. Was a career cop, and he makes these by hand in the shop behind his house. Scallywag blades are fantastic blades, but they are mass produced, so no two will ever be. They are mass produced. So if you buy two dew claws, other than possibly the color, if you buy one that's flat dark earth or OD instead of black, there will be no variance. But these are both skein dews, and they are very different. From blade shape is slightly different, blade length is different, handle shape and handle color both different. So no two blades will ever be identical. You can purchase blades that are already made at brockblades.com, or you can order a custom one with the type, and you can help design the type of blade you want, the size, the shape, the handle color, the way it's put together. You can completely customize whatever knife you want. And if you've got a friend or family member that's an outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman, backpacking, military, ex-military, law enforcement, first responder, anybody that uses a knife a lot, the gift of a custom-made blade is something that'll be treasured. And these are not meant to be set on a shelf and looked at. These are not just pretty little ornaments. They're useful and very, very sharp knives. So check out brockblades.com. Tell them we sent you. And if you do order a custom blade, make sure you let them know you heard about Brock Blades here on DA Ex Machina, and use discount code Cryptid10 for 10% off your order. And that's all I got to say about that.
Way to pick up my slack.
Bespoke blades. Noah churching it up. I'm not even sure I know what bespoke means, but it sounds nice. In bespoke.
He bespoke about it.
There we go. Angela Monroe says, I'm new to this genre. I'm just soaking up all the knowledge y'all share. And we're happy to share anything we know and learn. But just, again, remember, I can't stress this enough. There are no experts in this field. While we're happy to share with anything we know. Oh, okay. Well, we're happy to share anything we know. It doesn't mean we're right. We don't claim to have all the answers. We just try to present the information in a logical fashion and try to get to reach logical conclusions. That's why if you're looking for a lot of the, Bigfoot is telepathic and can cloak and go through dimensions, you're probably not going to find a lot of that here. Because we look for logical explanations first. I'm not going to say that what they call the woo does not exist. I will never be the guy that says that. But I am saying that we are finding, the more we learn about it, that there are explanations. And just because it does something that we cannot fathom does not mean it's supernatural in origin. Down through history, anytime something happened that people couldn't explain, supernatural or demonic, or it was generally that witchcraft is the go-to answer they went to. But just because we didn't understand it doesn't mean it can't be explained at some point down the road. He is absolutely right. Don't ever go cave exploring alone. And remember the rule that one is none and two is one. Carry backups of light. Whenever I used to be part of a caving group back when I was in high school and shortly after I got out. Whenever we went into a cave, we went in with a minimum of the resources of light. Because the last place you want to be is in an underground situation where you can't see the hand in front of your face without a light source. You ain't getting out of that cave. Not unless you were just absolutely lucky. Linda Bergman says the other researchers I follow were either interviewed or mentioned here in Dixie Cryptid. We really appreciate that other researchers are giving us the nod, and we're pretty proud to have attained that, because we don't do a lot of we don't get into any of the drama in the community, and we don't really go out on a limb on a lot of out there theories. We try to substantiate our theories with logical conclusions. And in cases where we can't, if we don't know something, we'll admit we don't know it. But we will do our best to find a logical explanation to pretty much everything about cryptids. And, a lot of times we can't, but that doesn't mean there isn't an answer. We just don't know what it is. Mr. Spartan 40 says, have you heard Dark Water's personal Dogman encounter? Yes, I have. And he stayed a lot cooler than I would have. I would have been what William Doc refers to as a brown pants moment.
So it would have been.
Look at the time. Don, Dixie Cryptid has narrated several of 4 so far of my books. And he's going to be 4.
Didn't you say he's starting on the Dark Frontiers series next instead of going to the Outlaw Pass?
He's going to do Dark Frontiers first hunt, and then I think he's going to go back and finish the Wild Hunt series. But probably by the time he gets that done, I'll have another Wild Hunt book out. Hopefully, anyway. Vic Kumar says the cave system seems like they work as suburbs and hoods for Bigfoot. The good ones live in the suburbs, and the bad ones in the good. I think it's more like that's probably long-term housing, especially in bad and inclement weather. But also, I think if these cave systems open up in multiple states, then they probably use it as a highway to avoid being detected. It's very easy to go undetected by the dumb humans if they aren't even above ground. 3D, I will do my best to keep Cam on his toes. Uter Transport says 42 degrees and rain on Snoqualmie Pass. Dress warm if you're going squatching in Washington State. You know, that's one thing about Washington State too. The Cascade Range, there are a lot of people who've gone missing in the Cascades and never found. And you know, the Pacific Northwest, what people fail to realize is how thick those woods are. There are, I think, 40 some last count. I think it was like 42 or 46 aircraft that have gone down in the Pacific Northwest since the 50s and have never been found. Never found a trace of them. And some of them were not small aircraft.
Well, and I think Washington State, rather, I don't think it gets the credit. I mean, it does from serious Bigfoot researchers, but I don't think it gets the credit. That is a hot spot.
Oh yeah.
And Rodney's got another good point. What's in those abandoned subways in New York City?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that a lot of people don't, most people, when they think of the state of New York, they think of New York City. New York's got a lot of
wilderness there too.
A lot of wilderness areas.
Look at the state of Maine. How much is in Maine? Vic, thank you for the super chat, man.
Thanks, Vic.
Has there been any Dogman in the Australian or New Zealand scene? There are actually a few Dogman researchers from Australia. There have been quite a few encounter sightings, usually along river systems, but there have been quite a few Dogman sightings in Australia. I don't know about New Zealand, but I know that there have been quite a few from Australia. Yeah, down in the old subways, the abandoned subways, those are a haven in New York for a lot of homeless people live down there. Now, if I was a big predator like Bigfoot or Dogman, that's the perfect place to prey on a population that is not going to get reported missing.
Yep. We said it time and time again, the indigenous population of homeless people, there's nobody to report them when they go missing. How much?
And even if they did, most law enforcement agencies are going to be, it's a homeless dude. He doesn't have a home.
Yeah, I don't have an address.
Begin to know where to look for the guy.
So how much higher would that number go? Was it 600,000? You said NAM USA says?
Yeah, it's over 600,000 people are reported missing by NAM US.
How high would that number be jacked up if you knew even half of the homeless population that actually
homeless and undocumented? I would say it would probably be much closer to 1 million. Maybe even over. It might be literally double. And
you think about these hobo camps, and I don't. If they still have those, I know that was a bigger thing back in the 80s, but I'm sure they probably still have. Probably won't call them hobo camps anymore because that's probably not politically correct. Yeah. Whatever, but I'm sure they still have those, and a lot of times they're out on the fringes of society, or even further out on the ragged edge.
Noah and I were out at Fellows Lake, which is just north of Springfield. We were out there today. And years ago, when I was still a deputy, there was a homeless camp out there, and it was a big one. It was just down below the end of it, where it tails off into a creek. There was a big homeless camp out there, and we drove down by it the other day where that homeless camp used to be. There's not a one down there. Just not even one. Didn't see a single tent. Not even the trash they usually leave behind. That area had been completely cleaned out. Now, I don't know if the state went in there or the county went in there and forced them out and cleaned the area up. I don't know if that's what happened or if they just packed up stakes and moved. But I just know at one point there was a large homeless encampment out there, and now it's just gone. While we were out there today, while Noah and I were filming a couple of videos, we could hear gunshots on the far side of the lake, and you're not allowed to have a firearm on that that lake. It's owned by city utilities, and some of them were cacking off rounds fairly quickly. So it's probably somebody out target practicing, but it was neat. That is the same lake where we've heard wood knocks in broad daylight, and it's less than 10 miles outside of Springfield.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about if these creatures are as smart as we are pretty sure they are, and they did use us as a buffet, where would be a good place to snatch up some hors d'oeuvres?
Yeah. I mean, even if one of the other homeless people reported them missing, law enforcement's not going to put a lot of resources on looking for a homeless guy who, in very real possibility, could have just packed his stuff and disappeared, and nobody would be the wiser.
Yeah, because we got a homeless shelter that just got opened up in the city a couple of years ago, and I know the problem that we dealt with is, we work 12-hour shifts. I'd come in on a Monday and Tuesday, work Monday and Tuesday, and I'd see people that I'd never seen before. And I'd be off Wednesday and Thursday and come back work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'd see more people on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that I didn't even see, because they were constantly coming in. And then sometimes I wouldn't see those people again for 4 or 5 weeks or more, because they're just people just coming. We had buses bringing people from Greenville County of homeless people just to drop them off because we had that shelter.
Mm-hmm. So, when it kind of feeding off of the homeless people, camping out in national parks. Somebody mentioned it. If you watch some of the channels like Hellbent Holler and some of the other channels that feature a lot of stuff in LBL, there are lots of cases where they've come across campsites out in the middle of nowhere in LBL where the tent is shredded and personal belongings are scattered. It looked like somebody had been living there and just literally abandoned everything they had or got dragged away. The tents are shredded, belongings are scattered, and no sign of the person anywhere. In a couple of cases, they found campsites that looked like they had been lived in recently.
Well, I mean,
still there, tents and all of it.
Those places like that that's a good place for homeless people to, because it's not like there's a lot of places where they can slip in and camp and not be seen. So it's
Right.
It's perfect place for them to, kind of sneak in. Maybe if it's a place that's got, showers and bath and things like that, and toilets and things like that. That's a good place for them to sneak in and kind of mix in and mingle and not be, and kind of hide in plain sight. But they're going to camp on the fringes. So there again, like you said, portable buffet.
Yeah. And again, it's a population that does not get reported missing. So, we've got no idea how many go missing every year. And NAM US does say that over 600,000 people go missing every year. However, let's quantify that. That is not 600,000 people that go missing and are never heard from again. A good chunk of those show up within a day or so. They were reported missing, and then they're found. But there are still a large number of them that are never heard from again. No sign is ever found. Yeah, a lot of that's probably human trafficking. But even if a small percentage of them is cryptids, it's still cryptids preying on people. And I think that's a very real possibility we've got to worry about. Bears don't normally put humans on the menu, except polar bears. Polar bears definitely are confirmed man-eaters. Grizzlies don't normally eat people, but they will. Black bears don't normally eat people, but there are cases of it happening. So, even animals that don't normally eat human will do so. Sharks don't normally eat people because we're not the chicken of the sea, but they will eat people. It's happened. Look at the Indianapolis incident. How many sailors went into the water and how many of them the sharks took? It's just, it's all about opportunity and timing. I've quoted the encounter I had up in the mountains when I came nose to nose with a grizzly bear. If you can see my microphone, I could have went and tapped that bear right on the freaking nose. I was that close.
Boop.
But it just happened to be it wasn't hungry, and I looked at it, and it looked at me, and we both agreed to disagree and went our separate ways. And I might have been wanting to go back to the campsite and check my underwear, but I was no worse for wear. Now, had that been a case where it had a cub with it, or it was just after hibernation season or just before, very different story. I would have been, promptly mauled and eaten. There's got to be the opportunity and there's got to be the need. And I think cryptids don't necessarily seek us out as a primary food source, but they're not going to turn it down if food's scarce.
But to your point, like you're talking about polar bears, when you get up that far north where food is scarce, I think we're on the menu a lot more up that way.
I would say so, yeah. And that goes for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, mountain lions attack people when the game is scarce. There was one mountain lion that was and it was up in Wyoming. They'd been tracking it for a while. They finally tranked it, darted it, and dropped it off somewhere up in the Rockies. But when they tranked it, it was less than 100 yards from a grade school. That it was stalking children. It hadn't gotten any yet, but if they hadn't caught it when they did, it might have dragged off a child. A mountain lion's a big cat. That's a couple 100 pounds of cat. And a 30, 40-pound kid, if it can drag 120, 130-pound deer up a tree, it can drag a kid off.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of times we as humans think we're 10 feet tall and bulletproof when it comes to that. We have no I mean, a 60-pound dog, if it gets pissed off, a 60-pound dog can just about kill us if we ain't careful.
Oh, I'll take a hunk out of you.
Yeah.
If we can get our butt kicked by, say 100-pound dog. If a 100-pound dog can tear the crap out of it, because I've seen police dogs turn a very large grown man into a crying baby. You got a 100-pound German Shepherd or Belgian Malinois can reduce a 300-pound dude to tears. Yeah, then imagine what an upright canine weighs closer to 600 pounds can do, or an upright primate that weighs close to 1,000 pounds. What it could do. Have you ever seen what chimpanzees can do to people? Chimpanzees are on a magnitude of about 10 times as strong as a human on average. And people that have owned them as pets have been attacked and had their faces torn off, eyes ripped out, their tongues bitten out, fingers bit off. And for some reason, they tend to go after the genital area and they'll mutilate that too. And if the chimp can do that to a full-grown adult, let's scale that up by a factor of about 10.
Let's put that in perspective, because I just watched Mitchell Hooper's YouTube. They just had World's Strongest Man here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a couple weeks ago, and they went down to Myrtle Beach Safari, and he had done a show not maybe a couple months before that where he was talking about animals, and he was saying, okay, how do I think I can stack up to this animal, and he said that he felt like he would have the best chance to survive a fight with a chimpanzee. So he gets down there and put things in perspective. Mitchell Hooper's about 6'6" or so, 340, 350 pounds, somewhere in there. Big dude. Won World's Strongest Man last year, came in second this year, or excuse me, no, he ripped his hand open, so he didn't place this year. But anyway, strong dude. And he was talking to the people at Myrtle Beach Safari and was like, so I did this on my YouTube channel, and I think that I would stand a chance against a chimp. And those girls were like, no. He's like, seriously? And he's like, look at me. And they're like, no. If this chimp got mad, and they were holding one that had a diaper on, so it was like a juvenile. She said, if this chimp right here got mad at you, there's nothing you could do to stop him. He would probably kill you before we could get him off of you if he wanted to kill you. Put that in perspective. This is the person who won World's Strongest Man. And they're saying that he would have no chance against this, basically a juvenile chimp if it got pissed off. But yet we like to think that we stand a chance against these animals in nature. We don't. That's just, and that's a small chimp. Like DA was saying, scale that up to 8 feet tall and well over 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. Northwoods, according to Google, a Belgian Malinois has 195 psi bite force.
And
pounds.
I can verify because I have caught several.
I had a Belgian Malinois get on hold of my arm in the bite suit one time, and
yeah, that's what
I thought it was going to break my arm through the bite suit.
Oh, I did it with a hidden sleeve. Yes, I'm stupid. Which, for anybody who doesn't know, catching, that's what you call it when you're playing the bad guy and they send the dogs at you. And a hidden sleeve basically is just a neoprene sleeve that goes on underneath a long sleeve shirt. It's not fun in a sleeve or a bite suit. It's really not fun in that. And
I imagine not.
Oh.
Michael X says, if a chimp attacks you, you'd best have a Claymore mine at your disposal, or you're going to get tore up. I guarantee you, if a chimp jumped me, I'd be yelling. I'd be pulling the Jerry Clower with Robbie. I'd be like, "Oh God, shoot this thing!
Have mercy! This thing killing me!"
Knock him out, John.
No, it's knock him out, Doc. Won't be long now.
And just because Doc is chimp size doesn't mean he'd stand a better chance.
They might think he's one of them.
They might. They might take him as one of their own and groom him.
Yep. Doc could be the new Tarzan.
There we go. Well, folks, we're just past the top of the second hour. We'll start winding things down. But I think we did a pretty effective job of covering the topic tonight. I think that there is a case to be said that with the number of missing 411 cases involving people who will have mental handicaps or physical handicaps, and then the government opening up the parks for free to people who have disabilities, I don't think it's a big leap of the imagination to see a connection there. And it is very likely that the nexus point of these cave systems could be the perfect location for a deep underground military base. Again, not a big leap of the imagination. It's pretty funny that everything that was considered tinfoil hat territory 5 years ago is now coming into current events. These things aren't seeming quite so far-fetched anymore. So the real question is what do you believe? The real question is, do you believe that these things are the big teddy bears of the woods, or that there's a chance, even a small chance, that somewhere they're eating us? And I think the preponderance of evidence suggests that it is, at least in some cases.
I think, if nothing else, I think we've really put enough, like you said, the preponderance of the evidence out there to show that it's definitely a distinct possibility that stuff like that is going on.
And I think if you go out into the woods expecting them to be the big teddy bear of the woods, that you're going to go up and hand them a granola bar and it's going to sing Kumbaya with you, maybe that'll happen. Or it might rip your arm off.
The Sabe people.
Generally, anytime I hear somebody refer to them as the Sabe people, at that point, I'm mentally rolling my eyes. The whole body eye roll where you're like, like, oh my God, here we go. It's ridiculous to think that because you had a peaceful interaction with one. I had a peaceful interaction with a grizzly bear. Doesn't mean I'll trust a grizzly bear as far as I can throw Mount St. Helens. No. And there was a black bear on our balcony when we were staying up in the Smokies, and I wasn't about to go out there and tangle with that thing. It was messing with the barbecue grill, getting the grease trap, and I let him finish the grease trap and activated the car alarm on my car, and it heard the loud noise and took off. But I wasn't fixing to go out there and fight that. And he wasn't even full grown. He was probably a yearling. He wasn't, he was still a cub, but he wasn't quite full grown. And that thing would have torn me every way but loose if I'd have gone out there. Just because you have a peaceful interaction doesn't mean it's always going to be peaceful interaction. Look at the grizzly man. He thought he knew all of those bears in that area and he could predict how they were going to behave. And then one time too many, he went out there and took his girlfriend and they got eaten.
Yep.
So,
well,
even people supposedly professional outdoors people who have studied animals can make a mistake and die.
Look at the there's never been a documented case of a killer whale attacking and killing a human in the wild. But then you get Tillicum, who has killed three
trainers?
Definitely two, possibly three, because they one of the guys they found in there, he was dead, but they couldn't tell if he just fell in. It was a homeless guy. You couldn't tell if he just fell in and drowned. But he's connected with the deaths of three people. But that's it. That's in captivity of an animal that people thought they knew, that worked with people every single day. You just never know what an animal is going to do at any given time.
And that doesn't mean killer whales in the wild don't eat people. It just means if it happens, there aren't anybody left to report it.
Yeah. Yeah, Pancho. Timothy Treadwell is the grizzly man.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend's name was Amy Huguenot, I think.
That sounds right. But, even people that have spent years of their lives studying a known animal cannot successfully predict the behavior of a known animal in all circumstances. So, doesn't matter, what you think about the behavior of a Bigfoot. We don't have enough information to go on to even form a guess on how they'll behave in every situation. And that's why I've always said that it's a dangerous thing to gift them, especially if you're gifting food. There's so many cases, even right here in Missouri, of people that the Missouri Department of Conservation warned people for years, do not feed these black bears because they're common all over Southwest Missouri now. They're everywhere. They're telling people all the time, do not feed these bears. But there's still people who would put food out on their porch, and they watch the bear through the window as they'd come up and eat. And these bears would eventually get used to them, and they could get up close to these bears. I mean, they probably, in some cases, I think people could get up close enough to touch them, but then the bear would run off. But they were habituating these bears to associate them with food. And in cases when they would be gone on vacation and didn't put food out, these things would smash in their house and basically destroy it looking for food. You do not want to get a wild animal. I don't care how intelligent it is. You do not want a wild animal to associate people with food. Even if you're taking, apples and bananas and peanut butter to Bigfoot way out in the middle of the woods, it doesn't mean it can't track you. And it doesn't mean the next poor slob that walks by that same spot that doesn't leave food isn't going to get his arms torn off because he didn't leave a jar of Jif.
Yeah, just ask Brian. Roxanne asked a question about we've talked about it before, all the wild killer whales that are attacking boats. She said, you think that's happened before, or is it something that's just happened now? I'm sure it's happened in the past. I don't think this recent thing, I don't think that's something that's been going on a long time.
75, 80 years ago, if a killer whale attacked a boat,
you probably wouldn't know about it much.
You probably wouldn't know about it because they would grab a rifle and kill the whale.
Well,
they're protected now. You can't do that.
And that's it. Probably happened a lot back when people were actually actively hunting them. During the because they went after them during the whaling times too.
Thank you,
So,
Angela.
but your point about habituating these animals, that's how why all these people in these little remote villages in Africa and in South America, that's why they get snatched up by these crocs all the time. You know, and granted they've got to do what they got to do to survive, but they live on these rivers and they catch fish, and that's their livelihood, and that's how they eat.
Get their drinking water. That's how they eat. That's how they wash their clothes.
They go down to the river and they clean the fish, and leave all the entrails,
the guts and the fish
and
heads,
and all that stuff out there. And the crocs learn it, and people like to talk about crocs are very intelligent. People don't realize how intelligent they are. That's why it's so hard for these people that catch and relocate these crocs to actually get, especially these bigger ones. They didn't get that big by being stupid. Right. Those are usually really, really old crocs that are smart, and they will watch and they will learn. There's all kinds of stories about crocs that would sit and watch people that camped out for a couple weeks of time in Australia and places like that. That they would watch people and learn when they went down, and would just ambush them after a couple, 3-4 days of watching and getting that pattern down, snatch them up, and there they go. So,
and a little bit of complacency can get you killed if you're not watching your surroundings, because you watch some of those videos of crocodiles hunting animals, not hunting people, but hunting animals like warthogs and stuff. You look in that water and you can see that damn crocodile is just under the surface of the water as this thing's drinking it. It's like all cagey, like stepping back, and then it'll look around and not see anything, and it'll start taking a drink, and wham! And it is just inches away from this thing, and it's terrifying. 3D, thank you for the super chat, man. Thank you very much.
And same thing with the lions, how they stalk people in the or any other animals in the plains. That big long grass waving, and all of a sudden you see the lion's face in it because they're perfectly camouflaged. There again, adaptive camouflage, or
perfectly suited to their environment.
Yeah, or the reason that the people in India, where they were getting a lot of them were getting attacked by tigers, they started wearing masks on the back of their head because tigers are ambush predators and they'll jump you from behind. So they'd wear masks on the back of their head to make it look like they were still facing the way. So, we're so naive to think that we're so much smarter and so much better. Nature can take you just like that when you're least expecting. You go out and don't know what you're doing and are not prepared, and being prepared. And I know we talk about it all the time about getting yourself a med kit, but there is so much more that goes into being prepared when you're going into these places like that. Letting somebody know where you're going, always having
when you're supposed to be back.
Right, when you're supposed to be back. People get so reliant on this right here, but what happens when you're in a spot where this ain't got no service and you're relying on this for GPS? Take a compass with you. Learn how to use a compass. Learn dead reckoning. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the military still teaches land nav and still teaches it the way they taught it for years. Because you're not going to go wrong. You're not going to go wrong if you know how to read a topo map and you have a topo map with you and a compass. If you got a lensatic compass and a topo map and you know how to use it, you can get yourself out of anything or any place rather.
Technology can and will fail you at the worst possible time. And it just falls back to the 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Yeah. And just paying attention. I mean, people get so, like you said, complacent. They're walking in woods and they get walking in and not paying attention to where they're at and what they've passed and, landmarks and things. Simple thing like making a blaze trail. Does anybody know what a blaze trail is? That's one of the simplest ways if you're going off the beaten path. That's one of the simplest ways so you know how to get yourself back. A blaze trail is nothing more than this right here, making a mark on a tree as you're every so often as you're walking.
Or in Robbie's case, what he refers to as fresh meat on a trail. I guarantee you, he doesn't have to make a notch in a tree. He'll just break a twig here and there.
Yeah. But it's simple things like that. And I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but I don't want anybody. If I've got the knowledge that can help somebody, I want to give that. So it's not me being, high and mighty or anything like that. It's just people don't think about simple things like that. Something as simple as marking a tree. If you're going off a trail, like you're walking down, and I want to go down and explore that. You can get turned around in the woods 100 yards off a trail. Very easy.
Or if you think you're going to have to go off trail, you can get them at any outdoor place. Cabela's, Bass Pro, Amazon's got them. You can get these little reflective marker dots that you just, like a thumbtack, you just stick it to the tree, and even at night, you can shine your light around and find those marker dots and follow your way back.
That's what we used to call them in hunting, call them bright eyes. You put your stand up in the daytime, and you go back and a couple of days later when it's dark, but you put them little things on it, shine your flash. Oh, bright eyes, there they are. You walk yourself into your stand.
I tell you, when you're walking to a stand looking for those bright eyes, when you're walking to your stand and it is pitch dark and a set of them blinks, that is a bad moment. That's
not the kind of bright eyes you're looking for.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to be here today. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I feel much like hunting no more. And we should probably do a show just on. We could you can call it the bug out bag. You can call it a survival kit. There are a million names you can call it.
Go bag.
Just basic go bag. We should probably do a show just on things to put in a basic go bag. There's a lot of things we could tell you that take up very little room in a pack, but will literally save your life.
You know what would be a good idea if the chat wants to see something like that? The week we come in, when we're all together, when we can pull a camera back and we can pull, because all of us will be there. We'll all have go bags. We can pull stuff out and explain it, and instead of us having to do it like this, we can
actually throw up a poll on who would like to see, how many people would like to see a go bag or survival bag show. If it looks like people were really interested, we would definitely.
It looks like there's already people saying that'd be a great idea. Miss Moon said that'd be a great idea.
We all three bring different skill sets to the table, and between me, Robbie, and Doc, and even Steve, if Steve has the time off, because Steve works a lot of hours. If Steve gets to hang out with us, we all bring different things to the table and approach it from slightly different angles. But we'll sit and discuss some very key items that weigh very little, and if you can, and in a lot of cases don't cost a whole lot, and you can put one of those in your bag and make a pretty decent go bag for. And some of the bigger outlays are probably going to be med kit and certain cold weather gear. But when it comes to basic survival stuff, we could probably help you build a go bag for $50 if you've already got a good pack. Exactly. Ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. You are absolutely right, dude. And also a good thing is you got to remember, if you put that weight on your back, if you build a bag and you think it's not that heavy, put it on and walk around your backyard for 30, 40 minutes. Even a pack that only weighs 10, 15 pounds. And a lot of times when I was in the Army, we would have a rucksack that weighed 40 pounds. And when I was a cop, man, I carried 40, 50 pounds of duty gear at any given time, especially if I had to put on my plate carrier. Also bring table nutrition essential. Yeah. My go bag has whiskey. It's probably at least got a hip flask because there's a lot of uses for whiskey that are, that aren't necessarily drinking. But you never know. You might want to have a little sippy sip while you're sitting around the campfire.
Well, think about it. if you ain't got any kind of pain medicine and you got somebody's got to suture up a gash in your leg, a couple shots of whiskey, and use the whiskey to clean out the wound. Use it to sterilize the knife or the hook or whatever.
If you've got a couple of cotton balls, take some of that whiskey and like just get a little bit on the cotton ball, put that in your kindling and light it.
Yep.
Instant fire starter. You don't even need to use very much. If you've got vodka, all you've got to do is take your cotton ball over the tip of that bottle and just do like that. Get a little vodka on that cotton ball, then put it under your tender and your leaf, whatever you're using as fire starting material, and hit that. It's gonna catch instantly.
Or you could bring you some Everclear, and then you can have a
extra
big
batteries.
fire.
Yes. But if everybody's interested in that, then while we're all together, maybe we'll do a survival show.
Look, I didn't see if Noah put the poll up, but I was looking at people while you were talking. I was looking at people, and overwhelmingly people were like, "Yes, yes, yes." I'll be there with a notebook.
Hooter says the Squatch bag might include sneaking an open bottle of barbecue into TA's bag. Yeah. Put barbecue sauce on the fat guy that ain't gonna outrun it.
I think that'd be. I mean, that way we're all together. We can pull stuff out. We can show it. We can talk about it. And because I'm gonna.
This is a good one. Yeah, we'll and again we'll put together a list of things that are usable, but it will by no means be an all-inclusive list, because there's always more you can add to a pack. But that just like Steve said just a little bit ago, ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. You want to keep it light, and if it's just something that you grab and go for an absolute emergency, you don't need to load it down with all the latest and greatest tech. There you can survive pretty well in some pretty bad areas with just the basics, and it all comes down to will. I mean, if you've got the will to survive, you'll find a way to do it. Gummy bears and s'mores. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be on the list, but we'll think about it. Square battery and steel wool. Yeah, there's lots of ways to start fires. Some of them better than others, but a lot of effective ways to start a fire. Even if you've got wet wood, there are ways to do it. Michael X says, make sure you ask Greg Howes about the alcohol and razor blade in his go bag. I'll do it, man. We'll give Howes some crap about that. Iodine tablets. Iodine tablets are okay for sterilizing water, but the simple fact is, iodine tablets are nasty. They make your water taste like crap. I've drank plenty of. Many a time in the Army, we would have iodine tabs purifying the water in the Lister bag, and that water tastes like crap. You don't want to cook with it. You don't even want to drink it anymore, and you have to. You can completely avoid the need for iodine tablets with just one life straw. Misty says, keep a bivvy, a water filter, first aid kit, pew, knife, light snack, 2 carabiners, and a bracelet with a compass, fire starter, and made from paracord with a whistle. That's a pretty good basic kit, but I would probably throw in a couple of space blankets. There's a lot of uses for space blankets, and they can keep you warm. There's a few basic things. We'll cover a lot of that when we do the show. So toward the end of June, when me and Robbie and Doc are all together, hopefully we'll have Steve with us as well. When we're all together, we'll probably do a show around my fire pit in the backyard and discuss survival gear and survival packs. 3D Havoc says, hey, do you guys see the Clay Hayes video he put up recently on using tree limbs to filter water? I had not. That's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to see if I can check that out. Edie Testerman, poncho liners are great. Yeah, it's not a camping trip. You ain't got your whoopee.
Gotta have a whoopee.
Gotta have the whoopee. Those things are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we are coming up on the 2.5 hour mark. We need to start winding things down. I had intended to wind things down a bit ago, but we kind of we got sidetracked. It happens. But
Who, us? Nah.
it wouldn't be one of our episodes if we didn't get sidetracked.
Well, see, what it was, we didn't get sidetracked throughout most of the show. We saved it to the end this time.
True. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the 22 a day foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. If you've got friends that are first responders, law enforcement, veterans, anybody that served in uniform, check on them from time to time. Especially veterans. Again, we lose 22 a day, and if you look at the Officer Down Memorial page, you see the number of officers we lose as well, including officers that take their own lives. And it is a sad part of the job, but people that do those things often see things that are very hard to deal with later. And they need to know that they're not facing those demons alone. Mark your calendar on the 22nd of each month and reach out to your veteran friends. Make that the day that you reach out and say, hey, you good, you okay? You want to come over to the house for a beer? Make that the day that you check on. Because you'd be surprised that even people that appear to have it all wired together may be the ones that need you to reach out to them the most. Because nobody checks on the people that look like they got their shit together. And a lot of times they're hanging on by the barest of fingernails. It's easy to fake it. And we're, as first responders and military, we've got this kind of pride in ourselves that we think we don't need anybody's help, but we really do. And there's no shame in reaching out for help, folks. There's no shame in leaning on your fellow veterans, your fellow soldiers, your fellow first responders, your friends and family. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know, especially if you need it. If you need somebody to be there, don't be afraid to reach out. There's kind of a stigma that people feel like they're less than when they have to make that when they have to reach out to somebody and you're not. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so keep that in mind. And if you go to the Till Valhalla project, you can get all kinds of amazing gear. And the Till Valhalla project, puts so much back into helping veterans. It's a bunch of veterans that run Till Valhalla, and they buy service dogs, they buy artificial limbs, they, help families of fallen veterans. They're doing a lot of good stuff, and I'm happy to support those guys. I've got a Till Valhalla shirt on right now. It says I stand for the flag because heroes rest beneath her, and I'm also wearing my 22 a day bracelet. I wear those all the time, and you can get both of those on, and a lot of other cool shirts. In fact, I think you can even get an Embrace the Suck T-shirt for those of you who like Margolin. You can find those on Till Valhalla Project. But check them out, and again, reach out to your family and friends who've served in any capacity, because you never know when they're going to need it. So as we wrap up the show, we'll put up our toast. We've been ending the show on a toast, and it's something I really enjoy doing, and it's something I'm going to continue doing for a good long time. The toast is from a song called "The Parting Glass." It's an old Irish drinking song, and the song's basically about people leaving the bar at the end of the day and raising a final glass. But when you really listen to the lyrics, you really hear that song, it's talking about more than that. It's talking about raising a glass to those who can no longer be there to raise a glass with you. It's saying goodbye to the ones we've lost along the way. So for you guys, and for the ones who are no longer here, for the ones who are still fighting the war, and for the ones who need to hear this drink is for you. We're all, I'll ask you to all join me. I don't care what you're drinking, be water, Kool-Aid, pickle juice, some adult beverage, whatever you're drinking. If you'd raise a glass with me, and we'll do our little toast here. So this is for all the ones we've lost along the way. The quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.